Many years back, my wife and I and our two little children were visiting in Virginia, and this was out of Germany. And we ran into some obstacles here and there, and some flights changed, and the rental car got more expensive, so we ended up here in Virginia, running our credit card denied. Trying it again. Denied. Whoa. So we called siblings in Germany. Can we please use your number? Give us your number. Well, it didn't work out. So actually, in the end, we had to ask our hosts to help us through it. Mortified, tell you. Shriveling up. That's how I felt. Different scene. In 8th grade, we were a rowdy bunch. And together with another kid, we had afternoon school because the schools had so little space. We had to take turns. So there was the morning group of kids, the afternoon group of kids. I was in middle school, so I was in the afternoon. 2 to 8 o'clock was our school day. So it was a hot day outside, and there was a senior living across the alley, and he was spraying water so it wouldn't be so dusty. So one of the even rowdier guys than I hung out the window. We looked at him and called out, Dummkopf, blockhead, stupid. And as soon as he turned his head up, we pulled back so he couldn't see us. Well, he had not seen us, but he came, ding, 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 walked to the principal's office, came to our homeroom teacher, and was kind of, who are these guys? Well, we zipped it. We didn't tell on each other. Until a day or two later, the homeroom teacher kind of got me in the hallway just by myself, and he asked me, Dietmar, was it you? And I felt like I did this, and he said, I'm so disappointed in you. You can do better. And that's when I felt like shriveling up, hiding under, running away. That's how I felt. Now, why am I telling these stories, these experiences? It is because when we're less than perfect, when we're vulnerable, when we're willing to be human with all of our limitations, and we all have these experiences, that is a sign of courage and not of weakness. Many of you have heard or read Brené Brown. And she says in one of her books, it's titled, The Gift of Imperfection. When we try to be perfect, when we look around and think, what will people think? That's when we limit ourselves. That's when we're too confined. And she says, actually, community grows, connection grows. We connect with one another through our pain, through our vulnerable spots, through where we feel like, I'd never want anyone to know that. But when we're willing to go a little bit closer to that place, and share a little bit more. Now, there are also the people who overshare. I'm not advocating for that. So there's something about a person you trust, whom you can talk with and share and know it's in good hands. So, but we connect through our weak spots and to the places where we hurt. And Jesus on the mountaintop, once in a lifetime, we may have those experiences. I just heard a couple of weeks ago from someone, a teenager who at some point had this deep, full-body God's presence experience where he felt like soaked in the light and the presence of the living God. I felt like, wow. We may have some of those experiences once in a while, rarely. Most of us are just day by day by day. And even when people have been on this mountaintop spiritual high experience, they return to the valley. And as one of the wonderful good elders in my previous congregation said, the fertile soil is in the valley. That's where the growth happens. Not there where there is thin air. Nothing will grow there. So returning back to where we grow is in the valley. And this is what Teddy Roosevelt wrote, or actually it's a speech. After he was done with his presidency in 1909, he had been president for 8 years, he went on a traveling tour, and he went to Berlin and Egypt, and in Cairo he spoke, and in Paris. This speech comes from Paris, and it's known as the man in the arena. It should include women in arena too. So this is what Teddy Roosevelt says, and I want you to listen closely. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives invaliantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. So what Roosevelt says is, are you all in? Are you willing to be vulnerable, to be the one who stands out in a crowd and says the unpopular thing? Or are you just standing on the sidelines and sneering or making a sarcastic remark or being a cynic or kind of the distant one? Are you in it? Are you willing to go to that place? And there is no leadership, no courage that goes without being willing to be vulnerable. Why? Because you gotta take risks. Getting out of the comfort zone, putting yourself out there, it's not easy. But we cannot do it without doing that, being out there. So give you a few examples of situations where you are vulnerable or people experience that. Going out or asking someone out for a date, and the person says, or waiting for the doctor to call back, or having the police officer pull up behind you with the lights and stop you, or not making the team, failing an exam. You know those situations. We have been there, all of us, and sometimes we feel like shriveling, hiding, withdrawing and all. But those are the places where we bloom, where we shine, where we connect with one another. where we're tender, vulnerable, willing to open up and experience coming back to the baptism. I love you no matter what. And there is nothing you can do that will make me ever love you less. So are you willing to be vulnerable? It's part of courage and of leadership. Will you do it anyway, as Mother Teresa said? People often are unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Be successful anyway. If you're honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years building, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it's in between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway.